Hello everybody, and welcome to Music Minutes with Mrs. Cash. We'll get on to today's lesson about bass clef in just a minute, but first, did you know music has a powerful effect on humans? Music can make you happy, music can make you sad, or all the other emotions you can think of. Listening to music can change your heart rate. Exciting music can raise your heart rate. Calming music can lower your heart rate. Studies have even shown that when people sing together in choirs, their heartbeats begin to line up. Isn't that amazing? Go music! Let's start today's lesson about bass clef. You've already learned treble clef, and we learned that that's the staff that shows where we play the notes mostly on the right hand of the piano, or the notes that we sing if we're the higher parts in the choir, or the upper instruments like flute and clarinet. The bass clef is for the left hand in the piano, or the trombone and the tuba, and instruments that play the lower part in the band or orchestra, or the lower voices in the choir. So, let's take a look at the whiteboard. Bass clef. Same staff, lines and spaces. Remember, we start counting the lines and spaces from the bottom to the top. So lines are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Spaces are 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 lines and 4 spaces. And we did talk in class the other day about how ledger lines will move us up and be above and below the staff, but for today we're just going to stay within that bass clef staff and learn how those 9 notes work, how the musical alphabet fits on there, and we'll go from there. So a bass clef looks like this. It's very important that you start it on the 4th line, and it kind of looks like an ear, and then it has 2 dots, one on either side of that 4th line. And the reason those are there, you remember how treble clef was called G clef and showed us where the G note was? Bass clef shows us what the note is on this 4th line. And that note is F. So bass clef is also called F clef. Here's how the musical alphabet fits on the bass clef. We know that's F. We can learn a saying for the names of the lines and spaces. The one I like for the lines is good burritos don't fall apart. G, B, D, F, A on the lines. Now, let's figure out what the spaces would be, because we know where the lines are. What comes after G in the musical alphabet? We start over again on A, right. So there's A, then we go B. What would come next in the musical alphabet? C, D, E, F, and G. The saying that I like to use for the spaces is all cows eat grass. Or some people like all cars eat gas, but that's not true because some cars are electric. Anyway, whatever saying works for you if you want to use a saying is great. Good burritos don't fall apart, all cows eat grass. Or remember, you can just remember where the F line is, where that bass clef centers right on that 4th line on the staff, tells you where F is, and you can imply your musical alphabet up and down, line space, line space, line space, based off of where the F clef is. That'll work if you remember where any one of the notes are on the staff. If you remember that the G at the very bottom of the bass clef is the ground, is a G, it's the bottom line. Go from there, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way up. So that's a quick look at bass clef. Let's see what the notes actually would look like on the staff. Remember the difference between the line notes and the space notes and how we have to be really careful to put them in the right place, so it's obvious where they belong. So here's our staff, 5 lines and 4 spaces. I'm going to draw a bass clef. And here's the line notes. And the space notes, if they were all whole notes, because those are easy to draw. Do you remember what the names are? Good burritos don't fall apart, and all cows eat grass. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. I think that's a good start. Let's take a break and let's come back after that and see how these notes work on the piano.
How do you fix a broken tuba? With a tuba glue.
What did you think of that crazy tuba joke? I wonder if Mr. Craner knows that one. Pretty corny. Today for movement, we're actually going to work on breathing. Now you're going to say, Mrs. Cash, I know how to breathe. I do it all the time. But we actually forget how to breathe because our life is so filled with tension and worrying about getting stuff done that we just don't do it the way our body is naturally intended to do it. And especially for singing and playing an instrument, you need to be able to breathe fully and in a relaxed way. The way we do that for singing in particular is to think about standing nice and relaxed with your feet about shoulder width apart, one foot just a little bit in front of the other. So you're nice and solid on the floor. Your hands and arms are super relaxed. Your shoulders are just dropped. Your hands are at your sides. One thing that tends to happen is when you tell someone to take a breath, the first thing they do is go and tense everything up, and this is what we're trying to avoid. So keep your shoulders dropped and relaxed. The next thing you need to think about is where your breath comes from. It doesn't come from up here. Your lungs are not in your throat. It comes from down around your rib cage. So when you're breathing, you want to concentrate on your rib cage expanding outward into the world and taking in a breath like you were filling up a great big balloon all the way around the back. Your rib cage is in your back as well as your front. So when you take a deep breath in, your whole rib cage expands in all ways. Nothing's moving up. A good way to do that is to put your hands, your fingers on your back and your thumbs in front, and you can feel that rib cage move in and out. The other thing you need to do with your rib cage is make sure it stays lifted and out of the way. You can't be crunched over. Like if you were a tuba that got run over by a bus, the tuba wouldn't play very well. Your body is your instrument. You don't want your body all crunched over. That's why we stand up nice and tall. So keep standing nice and tall, and you want to lift your rib cage. The easiest way to feel you have a lifted rib cage is to simply put your hands above your head and hold them together. Do you feel how your ribs are lifted up? And after you've done that, keep your ribs where they are and drop your hands. Keep your shoulders relaxed. That rib cage is lifted. So we're going to take a deep breath in and out a couple times and see what that feels like. Keep that rib cage lifted. Keep the shoulders dropped. You're going to take a breath in through your mouth, relaxed and open. Did you feel your ribs expand? Let it out, but don't let your rib cage fall. Again, make sure your rib cage is lifted. One more time. Let's do a rib cage check. Is it still lifted? Drop your arms. Okay. Let's do a couple timed breathing exercises. We're going to breathe in for 4 and then let it out for a 4 count. Feeling that tempo. 4 beats in, 4 beats out. Rib cage is lifted. Shoulders are relaxed. You're standing nice and firmly. Your neck and head are just resting comfortably. You're not reaching your chin up. You're not cocking your head sideways. Just nice and straightforward and relaxed. Ribs are up. We're going to breathe in for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it for a second and out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, in. 1, 2, 3, 4, and out. Don't let your rib cage fall. 2, 3, 4. Let's try that a couple more times. I'm going to breathe with you. Ready? Good. Now, beginning singers, when they first start learning how to breathe deeply again, like they did when they were little babies, sometimes it can make you lightheaded. So be careful. If you start to feel lightheaded, the first thing you should do is find a place to sit down. Deep breathing can make you lightheaded if you're not careful. And once you get your lung capacity back up and you're used to it, you'll be fine. But we're going to cut that statement out because that was crazy. So, where was I? One more breathing exercise. We're going to really feel those muscles around here. We're going to take a deep breath in, and then I want you to let it out on an SH sound. Make sure your ribs are lifted. And they're out into the world. You're going to take a breath in like this. And then you're going to let it out on an SH. And what I want you to try to do here is you think about a balloon. You can let the balloon just go and it goes everywhere. Or you let the balloon air out just a little bit at a time. I want you to try to regulate your airflow a little bit. So we're not just going to go and completely deflate. I want you to let the air out in a controlled stream. Imagine it like if your air stream was a beautiful piece of ribbon and it was stringing through some beads on a nice long string. Here we go. Check the ribs. Are they lifted? Lift your ribs. Breath in. And out on Good. Do you feel those muscles down there? Do one more of those. Ready? Breath in. And now I want you to do another exercise. We're really going to feel those muscles. I want you to do some short S's, SHs. We're going to do some short SHs. So your breath comes in, your breath comes in, and we're out on. You should be able to feel all those muscles in your tummy and your diaphragm just pulsating. Ready? Check your ribs. Deep breath in, and let it out. One more rib check, and one more deep breath, and out. Keep your ribs lifted. How'd that feel? It's a good start. Let's head back to the classroom. Let's take a look at how those bass clef notes work on the keyboard in our left hand area. Do you remember from the lesson about treble clef how we learned where middle C was on the keyboard? It's the 4th C. Do you remember how to find a C? You look for a set of 2 black keys, and any note to the left of those 2 black keys, that note right next to those 2 black keys to the left, is a C. Remember 2 black keys and 3 black keys? So I find the 4th C, and that's kind of where the piano divides into treble clef, up, and bass clef, the downward notes. So let's remember and take a look back at the notes that we drew in the bass clef at the earlier part of the lesson. They should be right behind me about now. They start at the bottom at G, and that G, well, let's see, we're going to have to go through 2 Gs. So here's middle C, And that G is 2 G's below middle C. So I've got to go down and find a little backwards alphabet. Oh, that's hard. I'm going to find the other C first. There's a C below. Now I've got to go backwards to the G. C, B, A, G. That's what the note at the bottom of the bass clef sounds like on the piano. And any other instrument you play or sing, it'll sound exactly like that pitch. There's our G, and then we just apply the musical alphabet, or watch line, space, line, space, line, space, line, space, going up the alphabet. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. There is the top of the bass clef within the staff. Let's review a little bit of a fingering pattern with the left hand in the bass clef. We learned that C hand position where your thumbs were not sharing middle C, but they were separated out. The left hand with a pinky on that C, on C3, and try some fingering patterns. Say the notes, imagine the notes, look at the notes, and play C, D, back down. So C, D, E, F, G, G, F, E, B, C. Remember to think of them as notes. Then you could count your fingers. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do a little bit of work with the bass clef and your fingers and your brain to get them all to work together. I hope you paid close attention to that first lesson about bass clef. We'll spend more time on it in class. We'll see you next time. Until then, here's another inspirational quote. Bye-bye for now.
I can't bear the thought of a day without music.